Hi, I'm Dustin Mason at Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. And today, we're going to take the LC500 for a little drive. This is a vehicle that I've done walkarounds and showcased buttons and features numerous times on this channel, but one of the things I get asked all the time is, how does it drive? So we're gonna do a driving impression video in beautiful Port Dalhousie is where I'm standing right now. And before we get into the driving impression video, make sure you hit like and subscribe to this channel for some more Lexus related content. But let's go for a drive. Okay, so the vehicle we're driving today is a 2022 LC500, which is very similar to a 2023 model. However, next year for 2024, we are gonna see a little bit of a refresh and some changes. So I'll be doing a video at that time. This particular one here is black on red and actually is the base model. Now, the previous owner of this decided that instead of paying for the performance package, he could use that money and put it into dressing it up a little bit, which is why we see these beautiful Vossen, I think they're called the HF2 rims in a 21-inch size that, you know, there's nothing wrong with the factory LC rims, but on a blacked out model like this, these Vossens look really, really sharp and kind of give it that Batmobile type look, which I absolutely love. Everything else, you'll see, being the caviar color, it's a black paint that has a decent amount of metallic to it as well. On any of the vehicles, I always recommend doing a little bit of a hood guard. So this one has a little bit of an invisible shield on that front hood. Very important on a car like this because the hood has such a slant to it and you don't have to be worrying about things like paint chips when you're driving this car. And that's what this is made for, is a driving car. It's like a touring car, one that you want to go on road trips with and stuff like that. So let's get right into it. Okay, so what you hear there is a flat plane crank, naturally aspirated V8 engine. It's a 5-liter with around 470 horsepower. I think it's around 380 torque or something like that. So not huge numbers, which is why I'm interested to sort of drive this car again. It's been a while since I've been in one because of the Canadian winter. But what I remember is everything is just so solid and heavy that it gives you more of that luxury car feel than just, you know, a rigid sports car, if that makes sense. We have a gorgeous interior here. It's the red leather seating with some really nice red suede accents as well. As I mentioned, this one is the base model, so we have a sunroof. It doesn't open, it's just a fixed pane of glass. If you were to go up into that extra package, the performance package, this goes away and it becomes fully carbon fiber, which also is really cool, but I don't mind having a little bit of light kind of come in, even though I can't open it at all. Okay, so we've already gone over so many of the finer details of the LC, so I think let's just get right into the drive. As soon as I put it into drive, now it is the same shifter as some of the newer Lexuses where it sort of flops back to the regular position that it sits in, but that's already in drive. We have paddles here that maybe we'll try out as well on the drive, and definitely I'm gonna play with moving that gauge cluster, the LFA inspired display, over a little bit. But let's get into it. Okay, so while we're just in the little harbor area of Port Dalhousie here, you know, one of the things I noticed is even in a normal driving mode, I can still hear the engine the exact same as I would if I was in like Sport Plus or Sport mode. So what Lexus wanted to do with that is that there isn't a quiet way of driving the LC. It's gonna be the same personality in terms of the sound that flat plane V8 engine makes, whether you're in eco mode, performance or sport mode, or regular driving situations. So that's a nice little touch so that, you know, someone always gets the best audio impression of the car, I think. I think that's why they did that. Also, I noticed it is really smooth. These roads aren't too, you know, well kept. There is like a lot of bumps, a lot of potholes. And with these 21-inch Vossens, the car is doing a really good job of, you know, maintaining that. Also, a little hidden feature. So in the menu, if we go to climate, you can turn on what's called Lexus Concierge, which is a little sort of figurine there. And Lexus Concierge is going to use some of the sensors in the cabin to maintain a very comfortable sort of heat or cooling situation based on your body temperature, based on the ambient temperature, stuff like that. Essentially, it's like auto climate control, just a lot more high tech. And a lot of people never even turn that on. They always just set the HVAC to low and have that AC sort of like blowing the whole time, where the Lexus Concierge is a much better way to do it, I think, personally anyway. So another thing I noticed about the LC, and this isn't a bad thing, it's probably, for the best, is since the back seats are so small, they're pretty much not even there, they're just there for like insurance reasons, that if you recline the driver's seat, it actually kicks out the bottom. So if I have this seat all the way back, like the bottom all the way back, and then I try to recline, it actually will kick out the bottom. So it's just kind of the way it's set up, I guess, so it doesn't rub the back. That must be the reason. But I'm a taller guy and I don't need any extra space than what the car is designed for. I knew when they launched this car years and years ago, they started with the driver's seats. They actually designed the driver's seating and then designed the interior and the exterior of the car around it, sort of like what Ferrari and Lamborghini do. And because of that, a tall guy like myself has lots of room, and the passenger has lots of room too. Now, the back seat, sort of useless for full-size humans. Maybe you can put a small child back there, or your gym bag is what I would use it for. Mainly it's like a two-seater. A couple of things I'm noticing while driving it is when I look in the rear view mirrors, the side mirrors, since the back of the LC is so wide, I actually can see a little bit of that quarter panel and a little bit of the really nice body lines, which I really like it. I didn't expect that. Like, I've looked at the LC, I've done tons of walk-arounds on them, I've been on test drives, and once you drive so many cars, you forget about those little details, and this is one of them where I really like that I can see that back part of the car, and it's almost like they designed the styling of it to be beautiful to look at. Okay, so what we're gonna do, now that we're on a little bit of a side road, we're not gonna speed or anything like that, but we're gonna get up to speed from a stop, just so you can hear a little bit of that exhaust, we can see how well it shifts, and also see how quick it is from a stop. So I'm gonna put it in sport mode for this one. Actually, you know what, we'll do Sport Plus. And we're just gonna come to a stop here. It's a safe rural road, so we can do this, and I'm just gonna punch it. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so lots of power from the dig. The shifts, oh my God. I forgot that when you really punch it like that, the shifts is where you can really hear that exhaust crack. It sounds like a quick shifter on a Ducati motorcycle, like really aggressive, really nicely toned, I would say. Definitely up there with supercars and sports cars, for sure. That was a whole different personality than when we were just driving it in the city a little bit. We're still kind of in the country, so I'm gonna do it again. 3, 2, okay, so we were already rolling a little bit there, so it wasn't as dramatic, but still really nice. I really like the shifts. It is a 10-speed transmission, and I noticed with paddles, when you downshift, it rev matches, and it makes a little bit of nice pops. Oh yeah, very quick shifting. Here's a little bit of an S-corner, S-turn that we're in, and it hugs it. It's lovely. We're in Sport Plus, so we should feel a little bit more of the road. I'll be honest, you don't feel much of the road, even in Sport Plus. It still feels like, that little bit of number, smoother luxury feeling that Lexuses have always been known for. And actually, I'm gonna put it in normal mode for this corner, just to see if there's a ton of body roll. Very smooth in the regular mode. I don't find, there's not a ton of body roll. It's still a very well-planted car. I would say, even if it didn't have the Sport Plus, it'd still be a blast to drive, for sure. Also, I will mention something that a few of my LC convertible buyers have mentioned. Now, the LC, pretty much since it came out, has always been a car you have to order ahead of time. So that means you can't necessarily test drive the one you're gonna buy. You just have to, hope for the best, and so far it hasn't disappointed anybody. However, one of the really interesting, I guess, pleasantly surprised things a couple guests have said to me is in the convertible, the exhaust is a lot louder when the top is down than the hardtop coupe. So in the convertible, you can really hear that exhaust behind you a lot more. So I would say if you're someone that wants to hear that exhaust, the inside of the coupe, the one that we're in now, has really good insulation. It's a touring car. And although it does a good job of still piping in a little bit of that sound, the convertible is where it's at for being able to hear the actual exhaust. And if you remember from some of my previous videos, the exhaust was fine-tuned by essentially musicians to have perfect octaves and have like a little bit of a listening experience when you're driving it. So it's really good for car enthusiasts, and in the convertible it's even better. So a couple things when driving the LC that you are going to notice. Lexus did, I wouldn't say cheap out, but they did reuse some buttons from lower end cars in the lineup. Things like these buttons over here for the HUD, for the gas, for the trunk. Those are just normal plastic. Same with the hazard lights here as well. Everything else seems very high end. And in my opinion, if you're going to cheap out on certain things like these buttons and reuse them to save some of the budget for R&D, that's okay. If you're gonna do higher end stuff in other places, which on the LC, they definitely did. So I'm not going to complain about a few buttons that I'm almost never going to use, like the hazards or like the HUD buttons, stuff like that. If you're gonna have some higher end materials throughout the cabin, or just if you're gonna put that money into other things like the sound of the engine, etc. So let's just do this little corner here. Again, I'm in Sport Plus mode right now, and it's not too bumpy. Like, the roads aren't perfect, and it doesn't seem like it's taking away from the smooth cabin. If I had to say anything about the LC, it's that it's a touring car. This isn't like the Sunday garage queen or whatever you want to call it, because you can drive this car every day. You could daily this car, and you could drive it across the country, and it would be smooth. It's a Lexus, so it's gonna hold its value even with higher mileage. There really is no point to baby this car because it was built so well to be like a touring car, and because it's so smooth and comfortable as well. So you don't need to only take it out when your back can handle it, because it's kind of like driving an LS in the sense that it's super smooth as well as fun to drive. A couple other things to note: the cooled seats don't have a button here. Like, there is no button around here for the cooled seats. You have to do it through the screen. Now, the LS 500 was also like that at first, and then I think maybe some people complained and Lexus decided to add a couple extra buttons. So we might see that in 2024, which would be kind of the first refresh of this. So we'll sort of see what Lexus says about that at that time. Otherwise, the steering wheel, super comfortable. We have a little bit of perforation here on the sides, which have a nice grip to it. It's something about a steering wheel that's the right size, that you can actually fit your fingers all the way around, is important. This one has that good grip for that. The buttons here, nothing super special. I think that in the next model, they'll actually be maybe the new intelligent one that we've seen on like the NX and the RX. But for these, nothing too crazy. And like I said before, you can move that gauge cluster over and have some more details to the left of it. Things like range, a G-force meter. You can have another place to see your engine oil temperature. Things like that are just like a little sporty. What gear you're in. So right now we're in 6th gear of 10. Go down to 5, go down to 4. Listen to that beautiful blurp of downshift that I absolutely love as we decelerate here. Oh, that rev matching is so good. Can't go into first, that's why it's beeping at me. There we go. You can only go down to first at a really slow speed, apparently. And under a tunnel, this will be good. This should sound good too. There's a lot of people around though, so I'll just do a little bit. Oh, it's when it shifts. The normal acceleration sounds beautiful, but when it shifts, it reminds me of like a Lamborghini Huracan, my Ducati, like something super exotic. But the rest of the driving experience is quite tame if you want it to be, which is really important on this car. Also, I will notice the shift paddles here are very nice. There's a little ridge on the other side. They're definitely not the normal I'm just gonna put it normal because it is a little bouncy here actually. They're not the normal shifters that you get on just any old Lexus. In fact, they do seem a little bit nicer. I'm gonna go around this. We're in wine country, so there's vineyards everywhere, and it's middle of the day, so that's why we see so many farm people out doing their thing. Also, so I think these paddle shifters are maybe made of some sort of metal. They don't seem plastic, but they seem super light. Maybe aluminum, maybe magnesium, maybe, I don't know, something like that, an alloy of some sort. So that's pretty good. And the shifting themselves, using them, is really, really quick. I would say one of the quickest in the lineup for sure. The door panels and all the accents around here feel great while you're driving it. Everything feels super, super solid and comfortable. It's very spacious. So you have that luxury car feeling. That's why I think you could drive this on long journeys or every day as a really nice daily, maybe not in the winter because the tires, but as a daily for, 9 or 10 months a year, depending where you live. Even where my arm goes in the center here, there is a lot of space for both me and a passenger. It seems to just rest there. I don't have to force it into a spot. There is lots of different spots depending on how tall you are or how you like to lean when you're driving. And we do have this little handle here, which we've seen in things like the Jaguar F-Type, which is great for not only your passenger if you are gonna do, some spirited driving, but also it's just comfy to have your hand there. Now we're kind of back in the city. We're kind of near Port Dalhousie again. So we're just cruising, we're just taking it easy, and the car seems to like that. And that's a big difference where if you were driving something like a supercar, it doesn't like the slow speeds as much. It doesn't feel at home in stop and go traffic with, dual clutches and stuff like that, where the LC's fine. Also, I just noticed on the bottom of the steering wheel, we have a little bit of that same decoration that's seen throughout the cabin and also on the grille of the LC. It's sort of like like a squiggly Lexus emblem, or like a Lexus emblem stacked on top of each other. We see it over there in front of the passenger. We see it on the grille. It's just a little homage, I think. Also, I saw that on the headlight too. Even on the dash here, this seems to be aluminum. Definitely it's aluminum on the handles. So really nice materials, as I mentioned, all throughout the cabin. This heads-up display is really good. Now, today's a really bright day, so I can't see it a ton. And I have gotten used to, on some of the more redesigned models like the NX and the RX, the heads-up display has gotten really big. And this one is sort of just like a normal size. So probably when they redesign it next year, maybe that'll get a little crisper, get a little bigger as well. I'm not too sure. I would say the suspension is tight for sure. Like on these bumpier roads, it's not like I feel every bump, even with these aftermarket wheels. But it is tight, I will say that. And actually the car gets a decent amount of attention too. Especially this one with the Vossen wheels looking like the Batmobile. The only thing it's missing is a big spoiler. Not much tire noise either, even with this setup, and definitely with the OEM 21-inch. Those are really, really solid too. Solid tire setup, solid wheel setup. When you put it in different drive modes, the gauge cluster does change a little bit too. Even between Sport and Sport Plus, like the Sport Plus just makes those RPMs just a little bit more in your face. You can really concentrate on where you're shifting or how you're pushing the car. Actually, let's just do regular Sport. Sometimes I put it in Sport mode instead of Sport Plus so that I have the throttle response, but not the suspension setup. So it's really good in the city for that. And there's also comfort too. So there's an eco mode and a comfort mode. Comfort does loosen things up a little bit in terms of the suspension. It's not tons. Like we're not talking night and day difference on any of these settings. But in the city, I am feeling a little bit more bounce, a little bit more recoil. Definitely better for bumpier roads. And then maybe when you're on the highway, you do Sport Plus so that you can have a little bit of more of that precision driving, or on the track, or wherever you're gonna drive it. In terms of multimedia and stuff, everything is right at your fingertips here, or you can use the mouse pad and this really big volume knob, which is great because I actually like having the controls for the multimedia within reach of this hand as well, like having the track, radio, media, tune, volume in this giant knob, and also you can click down on the knob to shut it off. I like that being there. I find my hand is already there, so why have to reach up to do it? Although I am afraid that next year it's not gonna be here anymore. Because of popular demand, everybody wants a touchscreen again, even though we got away from those a couple years ago. So I think everything's gonna be touchscreen next year for 2024, and they might get rid of the volume knob being here, which I hope they don't. I hope they leave it here because I don't like to have to reach up to do something if my hand's already right here. Also, the visual aspect in terms of like, is there any blind spots or anything like that? Actually, no. As I mentioned before, the back end of the car is big, so you see it in the mirrors, but the windows are big too, and the windshield is big. So there is lots of visibility here, which is very important on a coupe because sometimes the blind spots are really big on a two-door car. And this one, it's not bad. There's a little window behind me as well. And since there's a little bit of a rear seat, that rear windshield isn't right on top of me. So I think that helps with the visual aspect as well. It is kind of nice having the sunroof that I can actually open and close instead of just the carbon. So I really like what the previous owner did with this, going for, you know, the lower package, but spending that money on like something to dress it up, either, you know, the Artisan Spirits one that we did years ago, or the Vossen wheels. All of those things really add a level of personalization, which is nice. Going up to that performance package, it's around 17 grand in Canada, maybe it's 18 now. And it gives you things like, the engine and the horsepower is the same, but it gives you more of an adjustable sport differential. So if you wanted to really push the rear wheels a little bit, you could. But also gives you an active aero. So the rear spoiler would be active. I think it's carbon fiber in that package too. The suspension setup is a little bit different. We also have like some carbon fiber sill plates in the door panels. And I'm sure I'm missing a few things. The wheels are different on the performance package. You do get a lot, but it is a big price increase. So, you know, you could get an Artisan Spirits kit for 14, 15 grand maybe installed and really make it custom, or you could get those really nice factory options. We're almost back at the dealership, and I'm just gonna do one more acceleration here, just in the city, just so you can see, and it's in comfort mode right now. Not bad, we can still hear that V8. It wasn't shifting as fast because we're in comfort. I would say that's the big difference, is it's not like the engine sounds different in comfort mode versus sport mode, but the shifting does. So that's something to consider. That's why actually, you know what? I do like the normal and the sport mode a lot better. Park right up front so everybody can see this beautiful LC. Put it in park by pressing this little button here. Obviously the reverse is just over and up. Drive is over and down. And then you can put it in park. You can move it over to the side to put it in manual. Actually, no, you just go straight down to put it in manual. Obviously we can't do that because we're parked. Pretty much that's all the features over here. This one still has a CD player. I bet you they're gonna get rid of that next year. The Lexus touchpad. This little compartment here is where I put the keys, and then when you shut it, it kind of slowly shuts, which is very omotenashi of it. Also, when they designed this drive mode that you saw me play with a few times, they did it so that it's in the eyesight of the driver, so that way it's not a distraction that you have to like look down while you're driving. You can actually just do it from up there. Same with turning off the traction control. Also, there is a snow mode on this side. Not too sure how many people have used that, but it is there. And yeah, overall, that's pretty much the driving experience. Okay, so there you have some driving impressions of the LC 500. To me, it's a vehicle that is made to be driven. Whether that's a road trip car, a daily driver, do whatever the touring coupe was made to do, I guess you could say. It sounds great, it drives great, there's some nice fit and finishes, and let us know if you like this style of video. Thanks for watching. I'm Dustin from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks.